Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming this morning. We're just going to get started. We'll probably have some people still trickling in, but I wanted to welcome you. My name is Aisha Dixon. I'm the director of the Emeriti Retirees Relations Center at UCLA. And our goal is to provide a comprehensive approach to retirement by connecting Bruins to resources that focus on whether it's referrals, whether it's cybersecurity, Medicare, fun programs. We just had one the other day with the Academy of Motion Pictures and LA Opera not too long ago. So thank you so much again for joining us this morning. We are also the administrative umbrella for two organizations, the UCLA Emeriti Association and the UCLA Retirees Association. And we are part of the Chancellor's Office. So our office strives to be that connecting link and liaison to campus activities and events. Currently, we have just over 11,000 retired faculty and staff. So you're in very good hands and a good cohort of retirees. Everyone right now is currently muted. You will not be able to unmute yourself until we open it up for Q&A, but please feel free to use the chat feature to type in any questions, and our speaker will answer those for you at the end. If you have to leave during the program, we are recording it, and we will be posting it on our YouTube channel, which I will put in the chat right now so you can find us afterwards. And with that, I want to introduce my colleague, Maria, who will introduce our speaker today.
Thank you, Aisha. I also want to welcome you all for coming and thank you for participating. And we are very pleased to have here with us today Tom Vu, who is going to speak to us today about cybersecurity and all that is entailed in that. And I also want to give a shout out to another Bruin Tech that is joining us today. I see Joseph Chu. So the Bruin Tech community has just been wonderful and responsive to any requests that our retirees have made in terms of technical needs, and so we're very grateful to them. Tom has a background of 23 years combined service to UCI and UCLA in the IT field, and he's the director of business IT at the UCLA School of Law. He got his bachelor's degree from UC Santa Barbara and his MBA degree from CSU Long Beach. His favorite ice cream is Rocky Road and Mint Chips. Good choices. And his first movie in the theater that he saw was Star Wars in 1977. He spoke to us on Last Pass in October, and we're really excited to have him back for this very important topic. Thank you. Tom.
Thank you, Maria. And so welcome everyone to a happy Monday. And thank you actually, and I send my praise to you that you are connecting here on a Monday morning to learn about cybersecurity, because that's not the most sexiest thing to learn in that of the morning times, but it is one of those things where it's greatly needed out there. It's like you got to do the chores to be able to enjoy your ice cream there. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen here. And so then we'll begin shortly. Give me one moment here and share. Oops, this should minimize this. Okay, here we go. So thank you. Today, we're going to talk about that of cybersecurity here. There are 5 components I'm going to talk about: phishing attacks, passwords, working remotely, public Wi-Fi, and cloud security. Let's begin. So cybersecurity, if concerning that of phishing attacks, just to get a background information and brief description of it, it's basically a hacker's attempt to acquire your sensitive material, meaning that of your account name, which is your usernames, your passwords, your credit card, social security numbers, bank information, any of those sources, even your social media, any of these sensitive data out there that they can't get access to be able to damage your online presence, and also that of get your identity to be able to cause havoc. And for most part, is for that malicious goals. Your bank financially is pretty much the main component of it to be able to gather your sensitive information there. And there's many conduits that attackers go through. Mostly it's through by emails, but now it's through that of phone calls, and compromised websites. And I'm certain there's going to be a lot more other attack vectors and vulnerabilities that are going to come online for you. So just to be aware, though, is the fact that your financial information, your personal information are the main target that these people are going after, is to be able to gather and get your money. Essentially, it. Case in point, what prompted this presentation here was the Acelion security breach at UCOP earlier last year. So it was a situation where it was a multinational attack, meaning multiple attackers internationally outside of our American states attacked the FTP file transfer application to that one of our vendors there, and which breached, and they gained access to all of UC employees' financial data. And so that caused quite a bit of stir. So if such a large institution, not UCOP itself, but one of our vendors, Acelion, who prides itself on that of handling and maintaining financial data of their clients, are vulnerable and were susceptible to that of breaches, you can kind of equate to that of you yourselves as a private citizen, how vulnerable we are. So getting back to Acelion, is that basically the repercussions are that as you see employees or alumni, you have access now to the Experian credit monitoring. So please do sign up for it. I completely recommend that everyone sign up for the credit monitoring so that you'll be able to gain access to your credit reports. It's free for that of UC employees, staff, and I think alumni. You have any questions, contact, go look up to that of www.security.ucla.edu and look for that, the Experian credit monitoring. But that was what happened here. So what happens if you are were vulnerable and were had your restricted data taken? So first and foremost, go to the police department. In this case, because you're part of UC family, go to the UC PD, excuse me, that's a typo. That's not UCOP. You should go to UCPD, Police Department, but UC campus, and report that you had identity, someone gain access to it. You lost your credit card, you lost your wallet, you felt that your digital presence was taken. File a complaint. So that is the first steps. And the next one is that of go to identitytheft.gov. These are steps that the government itself provides for you to do in the case of having your sensitive data being hacked there. And then again, go to UCLA security.ucla.edu and look up for that of the credit monitoring. Establish file, contact your credit monitoring vendors and let them know that you had your accounts vulnerable, that you saw malicious, unwarranted activities on your credit card or financial institution, and right away let them know that that happened, and then they should be able to talk with you about the various next steps, what needs to be done here. The next one is that of passwords. I want to be able to rephrase that. It's not passwords that we want to use, passphrase here. So passwords are a little bit more of antiquated version of it. You want to use a passphrase, meaning that rather than doing ABC 5, 6, 7, so that's a little bit hard to remember, but everyone can remember a passphrase there. So case in point, for example, I graduated from UCLA 2001 or 21. So abbreviate that into number 1, GF, capital U, capital C, capital L, capital A, 21. So now this is your passphrase. So now as you go to any websites or any login, you don't have to remember any randomized password. Everyone can remember I graduated from UCLA 2001. And then you abbreviate that there. So that is the the quick tips that you should utilize for that passphrase to log on, right? The next one component here on that password security is utilize a password management. UCLA has a contract with that of LastPass, and it is open to all staff, students, faculty, and alumni, as long as that you still have your at ucla.edu account. You can go ahead and use that account to be able to activate and use LastPass. In the point of that of time, go ahead and refer back to my last presentation on LastPass. It dealt quite a bit on how to use it, how to install it, and the benefits of it. But definitely having a password management is the next steps into be able to maintain your passwords, because as time goes on, it's not just one password, your passphrase you're using multiple passphrases out there, and it becomes very challenging to memorize 5, 10 passphrases out there. So having a password management is a great tool that everyone should start using. In addition, the fact that you can also store sensitive data out there temporarily wise, common documentations and notes, and be able to share that with yourself. The next component of that password is that multi-factor authentication. You'll hear this a little bit more often on my presentation here, but multi-factor authentication is another key component to provide security there. In the event that your password was hacked, the multi-factor authentication, that process that as you log into a web portal, let's say it's Google Mail, right? And then you log in with your password, and it sends you a verification email to another email account, or to a text to your phone, or that to the dual authentication that verifies that, and then you approve it, then that verifies that it's actually you that's doing it. But let's say that you do not have multi-factor authentication enabled onto one of your websites, like your bank, right? As you log into your bank, as a hacker logs in with your account and your password, and there's no multi-factor authentication enabled, then they can directly get into your financial institution out there. But with multi-factor authentication, they have your username and they have your password. And as they log in, the multi-factor authentication is sent towards that of a secondary verification, like that I mentioned before, your phone or another email, or the dual authentications. The hacker would not be able to authenticate that second authentication, and thereby they stop them into their tracks. They would not be able to access your website there, right? And the case in point is that a certain ex-president of ours who was a formerly heavily Twitter user, his account was hacked. They had his username and his password, and they were able to go into his Twitter account and be able to access all that data, and then send out some bogus attacks out there. That, fortunately enough for that ex-president, the hackers notified the president, notifying that, hey, we were able to access your Twitter account. Here's your username, here's your password. We recommend that you go ahead and change that. Well, with multi-factor authentication enabled onto his Twitter account, that would not have happened. The hacker would have been able to access his email, his user account, and his password, but they would not have gone further into without that of the second authentication out there. So it may seem like that of a bit of cumbersome to have to authenticate even after you log in, but it is a security measure that we highly recommend out there, because in this world of cybersecurity, it's a matter of when you lose your digital identity, or someone has access to your passwords and accounts. And having that multi-factor authentication is a good way to completely verify and stop the malicious attacks from ever happening to you. So it's a bit cumbersome, but after a while, you become used to that process, and it gives you another assurance and security that your bank accounts, your health accounts are being extra secure because of this measure. All right. So the next topic we should talk about is working remotely. Um, everyone here is Emeriti and alumni, so probably won't be spending that much too, but I do want to mention a couple of things out there that everyone should be aware of. And the first one is VPN. It stands for Virtual Private Network. This is key. I will mention this tool again. So VPN, Virtual Private Network, is a tool that encrypts the connection from your home computer on over to your destination computer. It provides a secure tunnel, so that is needed in this aspect. So in working from home, that's a secure connection established between your home computer and your computer. The next component of working remotely is that of remote desktop onto your work computer, as opposed to having the applications or data locally onto your computer. I'm certain your work computer is a lot more secure than that of your home computer. Next component here is that of web conferencing tools. UCLA has accounts for the Zoom, and also UCLA, we have Microsoft Teams that we utilize for that. So these are a component there that web conferencing tools, video conferencing tools is like everyone's using right now is Zoom's is a heaven sent to be able to connect and establish communication uh, through that of a remotely. The next component that UCLA has with here is Slack, which is a digital communication between that of colleagues within that of UC system. DocuSign is another application where you're able to send documents securely from your site on over to another site and digitally sign off on that. So it has been a great application that readily used, not just within UCLA, but around the world there. It is a great component of sending digital forms and having digital signatures, enabling rather than bypassing sneaker mail or snail mail. Next one here is Data Box, which is a digital cloud service. We'll talk about that a little bit later for cloud services, and Office 365 and Google Apps. You as alumni, if you still have your at ucla.edu, then you have access to the Google accounts application, excuse me, and you just log in with that, and you would have access to Word, Excel, the Google equivalent of it, and also onto the Google data storage out there. The Google Drive that's it. So the next component here, and I apologize if I'm going a little bit too fast because I want to give enough time for questions and answers here. Next one is public Wi-Fi. So we've all been to Starbucks and we all logged onto there, but in the very beginning it's rather safe, but now attackers and hackers are seeing that as a opportunity to gather people's data. So what they do is they go into, let's say, Starbucks, and they set up a access point, a Wi-Fi, naming it Starbucks Guest, right? And then unsuspecting people go into a Starbucks and they turn on the Wi-Fi and they see Starbucks Guest Wi-Fi, and they assume, oh, that's Connect One, it's free, so they just connect it and use their Wi-Fi. No, we always recommend that as you go into any public Wi-Fi, no matter if it's a readily well known as that of Starbucks, definitely be suspicious and cognizant of the Wi-Fi that you're accessing, airports and so forth, Starbucks, airports, any other public Wi-Fi's out there. Cybersecurities are setting up bogus Wi-Fi access points to mimic the locations out there. So one way to do is just the old-fashioned way. Ask the locations employee, what is the name of the Wi-Fi here? And more often than not, they will readily tell you, oh, it is whatever it is. So then you now have verification from the site's location, what is the name of the Wi-Fi, so that you can log in knowing that this is what it belongs to the vendor there. It may seems like an extra step, but in the level of that cybersecurity, that extra step will prevent and give you assurance that your data is safe and secure. And then the other component here is VPN. Even if you are correctly going into the Starbucks Wi-Fi and you verify it, have a VPN connection established on your online session there. Again, it provides a secure connection, tunnel encrypted, and it just gives you another broad presence. The fact that there is no way for a hacker to be able to access your data during this time. So again, as I mentioned before, when you remote log in from your home computer, your computer, you establish your VPN. So do the same with that with your public Wi-Fi. Establish a VPN, virtual private network. There's a lot of vendors out there, but then there's also a lot of free vendors out there. And so do consider having that as a security tool out there. The next component is, as you are going onto websites there, ensure that that website has HTTPS. So meaning that that website is now configured with that if it is an encrypted website. So all the data that goes into it is being encrypted. Now, if you go to another website and it does not have that S, meaning it's HTTP and then dot // www dot whatever that may be, that means it's not secure. So do look out for the prefix HTTPS. That ensures that the website is secure. And for the most part, it's hidden away. Normally, you just type in www.security.ucla.edu, and you won't see that. You won't need to fully type it out. But if you on the browser, you just click onto it, and it'll expand out the URL link. You'll see if that address contains the S or not. So verify and ensure that the website you're going into has the S into it. The next component is, well, if you're using Wi-Fi, try not to use it. Definitely, but if you must use it, then try to avoid going into your social medias, bank websites, credit cards, and so forth. Nowadays, your cellular phone is a much more secure connection. So having your phone, using the apps on the phone is just as secure, or even actually a little bit better than that of going to the website there, right? So that's the next component here is, if you are going roundabout, try to use your vendor's mobile account, especially with your banks out there. If it's your bank, log into your mobile phone, open up Bank of America or credit union, and do all your digital banking activities there. But if you need to use any major ones, go home and use your computer at home. That provides a better connection out there. And also, if able, your phone does have a cellular data. And if you have unlimited, great, then just activate your phone's cellular hotspot and then have your laptop connect onto your cell phone. So thereby that you're ensuring that this Wi-Fi is from your phone and connecting to getting data in that way. So it's a much more secure connection out there, because going to Starbucks and browsing for fun is great, but do you want to risk it and change it? So for the most part, I would recommend go ahead and use the Wi-Fi out there, but go through all these previous steps, above steps, to ensure that you're doing it safely and minimize the essential activities of accessing the bank's website, credit card websites. These are websites out there that are vulnerable and high value targets that hackers are use, right? So the next component here is cloud security. These are connections like that of Google Drop and then Microsoft Hotmail that give you cloud space, or even you can sign up for and have cloud storage there. But what we recommend, or that industry standards recommend, is that, well, go ahead and store it up there, but then also have files locally here. It's one of those age-old recommendations that to provide you, is the fact that always have a local backup out there. It's just one of those things. I know it's kind of redundant, but that's the whole point of it, is redundancy out there. The next point here is try to avoid storing sensitive data, meaning that of your social security numbers or your bank institutions, out there. Do you really need it on the cloud? If yes, go ahead and store it. But then if you no longer need it, delete it. It's one of the things where having these things up there, you are storing all your data up onto the cloud, and that particular vendor provides all these additional securities and space. But do you really want it to have a third party contain all of your sensitive data out there? And then what happens? You lose connection or you forget your password out there. So that's why I always have a files backed up locally here. The other component here is that of cloud services that you select, ensure that their data is encrypted. So here, everyone would have a Google email and a Hotmail because they provide it for free. Google does provide cloud storage. It's called Google Drive, and Microsoft provides cloud storage, and it's one called OneDrive. Fortunately enough, these two cloud services provide encryption out there. Oh, I apologize. I just realized that cloud security out there. So it's cloud services and cloud security out there. Yes, you definitely want to ensure that your cloud services that you're utilizing are encrypted out there. But for the most part, the majority of people use the free services provided by Google and Microsoft, and just want to assure you that those two cloud services are encrypted. The next component here is, again, use a strong passphrase. So go ahead and think, I graduated from UCLA 2001. So it's 1GF, capital U, capital C, capital L, capital A, 21. That's a great password, and it's a great passphrase you'll be able to remember rather than a randomized password. And again, use multi-factor authentication. Highly recommend out there. These are, if you're getting the theme here, is our secondary insurances that if your username and passwords are hacked, then the fact that multi-factor authentication will provide the additional barrier preventing them from that of accessing your valuable storage space, data, excuse me. So I apologize, I went very fast on this, but I wanted to open up this to a lot of questions and answers because the fact that these are a lot of topics that were brought up and not everyone would have known to it. So the question and answers are a best way to be able to field your questions there.
Well, thank you, Tom. So we do have a few people in the chat. Of course, hang on, I dropped my earbud. We do have people asking in the chat about VPN. Is cellular data safe if I don't have a VPN?
For the most part, yes, it is. We consider it safer because it's your cellular connection out there. But it's one of the things that how safe do you want to consider? If it's a question mark, then go ahead and establish a VPN connection. And it's, in addition to that, is that it's a little bit harder for if you're of the mindset that I don't want Big Brother to know my digital activities. The VPN does cover your track. So if you're going to a website that you don't want anyone to know about or track, or that of the vendor to be able to know what you're doing, then a VPN does provide that additional shield on your activities.
Okay. Is it okay to use public Wi-Fi for generic search engines?
Yes, absolutely. If you're just doing general searches out there, yeah, for the most part, the datas and internet connections are considered safe. But these are things where, as hackers become a lot more active, you also want to become more security minded. So again, these age-old gnomes of going to the particular Starbucks and verifying what is the Wi-Fi here. It's just one additional step, but it is one additional security component out there that does provide your assurance that you are safe. And in addition, having a VPN does provide that extra layer of security out there.
Do you know if UCLA offers VPN for retired staff and faculty. I know current employees get it, but I don't believe retirees get it. Do you know about that?
I don't know, but off the top of my head, in my initial understanding is that no, VPNs, UCLA does not have a VPN client out for the non-working staff. But I'm certain there's a lot of free VPNs clients out there, with that of the fact that, like all things in life, you're going to go free. They're going to bombard you with advertisement for a few moments there. But other than that, it is a service out there we highly recommend.
Okay, that leads to the next question. Can you suggest a VPN, and how do we establish it?
I don't have any recommendations out there because there's so many out there, right? But a quick Google search on that of top 10 VPNs, public or free ones, and we'll provide you one of the best ones out there, because like all things digital wise, the vendors that provide are really fast, and they come up, and there's basically just a lot of vendors out there, and some provide really great service, and then they go down. So every once in a while, just do a quick search on who are the best and VPN clients out there, and go with that and do your search. And going to YouTube's and doing a quick search for VPN reviews provide a lot of recommendations and a lot of review that people have done, and provided critiques on which one are the better VPN clients out there, for that of paid services or that are free VPN services.
So I think Emeriti, our retired faculty groups, I believe they do get the VPN, and maybe through their department, but I will follow up with that via email. So if you're on this Zoom now, when I send out the PowerPoint slides and everything, I will confirm. I believe retired faculty do get to keep a VPN, but I will double check on that for you. And then let's see. And I see another email about us advocating to get the VPN. That's a possibility. I mean, especially with these recent cyber security breaches, I will explore with our IT department and the chancellor's office how our retirees can get a VPN. So just look out for that email. I'll see if I can, what we can do from our department to try to see if we could push for that. Let's see. I think that was for the questions. Everything was, another question was about using a suggested password from iPhone and Google. Sometimes when you're on the website, it will suggest a series of numbers and letters to be your password. Is it safe to use those?
Yeah, they recommend to use those are randomly generated ones. But the question is, can you remember all those randomly generated ones out there? If you're not using a password management tool, then you're talking about that of XYZ 2345 2001 850 pound asterisk signs. I won't be able to remember that, right? So these are randomly generated there. So if you do have a password management one there, those are quick to capture and capture and store for you, so that later on you go back into it, you can save it. I recommend do not use the browser's password storing capabilities, because a lot of times the browsers, whether it be Chrome or Safari, they offer to save your passwords for you. But a lot of times, I think in the older generations out there, those are being stored in clear text, meaning that they are not encrypted. So that's not a good way too. And you do, for me personally, myself, I try not to I try not to use randomly generated one for my most high valuable accounts, like my credit card, my bank account, my my Fidelity accounts, my Kaiser, my medical ones. These are the ones where I do want to manually input out of the sheer fact that I access it regularly. So it keeps my mind fresh and it reassures the fact that these are the current passwords out there, as opposed to relying on a password manager or that of the browser password and self-input in there. Just imagine the fact that you use it more often, you use it regularly. It just reassures that you remember it quickly. And having a passphrase is a lot better than a randomly generated one. Hopefully that answers your questions.
Yeah. And I think you may have mentioned LastPass on the presentation a little bit. So when you use your UCLA email account, all retirees can keep their email address, not your departmental email, but you will have an email address from UCLA. And I put in the chat more information about LastPass and how to register from that. It's the premium version, not the free one. So you just have to check out the website that I put in the chat, and then you can get the premium version of LastPass for your passwords. So those are all the questions that I see in the chat, if I haven't missed any, but I will open it up for everyone to unmute themselves. And if you have a question, you're more than welcome to raise your hand or unmute yourself. Maybe Tom, if you want to not screen share, we can get everyone to, they have questions. So please feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand. And if you have more questions for Tom, he can answer them.
Please do. I went through, I created the slide deck over the week. I didn't realize that. I thought that it was just a lot of information. So I just wanted to talk through it really quick, but I'm relying on the fact that the question, the Q&A section is the most valuable component. So please do ask any questions. Sure. There's no silly questions at all.
I think Marcella, did you have your to unmute? Marcella?
Yes, I wanted to know further, like I do use the generated from my iPhone. I was the one that asked that question from my iPhone and Google. And sometimes I do generate my own password and I store it, save it. So you do not recommend that. Is that correct, Tom?
Yes. On your iPhone, I think that's a little bit more secure than that of a laptop or a desktop. But definitely, I recommend that rather than utilizing their generated one, rephrase it into a standard passphrase that you're familiar with. What I do is that rather than using a random passphrase, I'm using an algorithm that is so like, let's say here, I'm going is a algorithm passphrase is something that's standard in that of everyththing, and then that's unique to that particular application there. So let's say UCLA at 012. That's my first component of it, and that'll be standard cross. And then if I'm going to Hotmail, then I'll change to at HM $bang or exclamation point, unique to that website for Hotmail. And then if I'm going to Gmail, my Google account, I'll go again, UCLA at whatever, and then at Google Mail. So the first component would be a standard passphrase. I graduated from UCLA, and then the at symbol, if you want to use that, and then another component that's unique to the website. Like that is if you're going to Kaiser Permanente, use KP, hospital, something like that. If you're going to that of Bank of America, go to use the first standard one, and then another one that's unique to that web page. So that way that it's unique to each component, but then that the first portion is standard, and the second one is unique to that particular website or application.
Oh, that's a great idea. But will you suggest storing it or saving it? Like on iPhone, they always ask if you want to save it. So will you suggest saving it?
That's depends on you scenario. if you iPhone is definitely a safe one, but then I myself am going to not try to save it on the phone because these are my bank accounts, my credit card, my medical web portals out there, my emails. These are accounts I go on a regular basis, so I tend to not save it and manually input it in because of the fact that repetition ensures memory, and the fact that it's something that I want to know. You can also still store it, but you still also want to every once in a while manually input in there to make sure that you're memorizing it correctly.
But I use my fingerprint, to.
Oh, the biometrics thing, absolutely.
Okay.
Biometrics is a key component out there that is unique to you, and so if yes, if it's biometrics, then yes, it's okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcella. So there, and I, that I have a similar way when I do my passwords too. If it's for Hulu, my last bit would be HUL. If it's my Netflix account, it's net. Well, I'm telling people tuning my passwords, but it's kind of along the same way what you're saying about making sure the password is reflective to that site. So if it's a Facebook password, it could be FB, if it's things like that. So any other questions? We do have a comment in there about a future session with you, Tom, about cloud security. So we'll plan that in the future. But John, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, can you talk a little about or elaborate on VPN, kind of how it works, how you use it with the browser or whatever?
Absolutely. So a VPN is just another application you enabled after you are established a data connection. So let's say it's at home. You're at home, you turn on your computer, log in, and then you click on, as soon as you establish that you have a internet connection, click on VPN, right? And then you log on to that VPN. Now you know that it's a secure connection on over to the internet. So for UCLA's VPN client, what it does, it redirects all traffic into UCLA, and it provides a secure tunnel, so where all the data are passed through there and it's encrypted. For that most part, but for that of the general user out there, it's just another step of you turning on your computer, open up a browser, right? And then click on to the VPN application client that's local to your computer, and then log in and go forward with that one.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Are you saying I don't use a browser like Firefox, Chrome, or Edge? How does that work?
Yes. There are also free VPNs out there for that are browser based wise. The one I mentioned where you turn your computer and then you log on, that's a local client out there. So nowadays, everything is moving towards SaaS, meaning software as a service network. So in this component there, you open up a browser, and then you should have a VPN plugin or into that browser. You click on that particular VPN plugin, and then it will establish a VPN connection. Now, if it's a paid for VPN, then you would log in with your account and your account and your password, and that would establish a secure connection on your browser there.
But I do use my regular browsers that I'm used to.
Yes. Nowadays, those browser-based VPNs, yes. But again, you want to make sure that you actually do that. It's actual activities out there. There are some VPN that you set to automatically open up with your browser. But then again, I've come to a normal for myself. My best practice is that I don't like to automate stuff, because if you're automating stuff, you're relying on something that eventually can break. And if you don't realize that it's being started, then you're going about doing your digital activities, and by chance, if that VPN connection or that password security connection is not activated, then you now are doing everything free, wide out and open. So I tend to, for the more high value, more secure, more risk once I do things manually to ensure that, yes, it is starting. So it's an extra step manually, but it's something where I know that it is being started.
So
Thank you
John,
very much.
I can quickly show you just on my screen share, just to kind of give you an idea. I don't think I regularly use my VPN, but I know the little icon is there. So I'll do a screen share, see if I can figure this out. And then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so let me see. Do you see this little icon here at the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
It says Cisco AnyConnect. Do you see that, John?
Your picture's actually in the way, but that's all right.
Oh, is it? See, I'm not even
Yeah.
sure if I'm screen sharing right. So
No,
I
no,
will.
that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. So I click this. Do you see this now? The Cisco AnyClient.
Yep.
So this is when I click in here, it says virtual private network. So
I see.
So this is what I guess the company that you could use, Cisco. But what I would need to do is to hit the connect button, and I guess it will connect somehow. But it's not something that I regularly use, but Cisco is a company that does do security mobile clients. So if everyone can see this little box here, this is kind of what the VPN is. It has a little thing here, and then it allows you to start it anytime you connect it, minimize it. But these are all the things that the VPN does do, and so everything can be encrypted.
So if I may take another minute, am I correct to say that instead of without VPN, I'm sort of going onto the internet directly? With VPN, I'm going through somebody else's network to get to the internet.
It's more of a, I'll let Tom answer that.
You are partially right. It's basically, if it's like UCLA's one, it's creating a tunnel for you into UCLA, and then from there you go outwards, right? But if it's a vendor one, a browser one, what that does is you're still getting an internet connection out there, but all the data that's being sent via within that browser is encapsulated. Thank you, and encrypted for you. So it's not like that of AOL where you're only going into LL's website and then getting only their resources. A VPN basically is just provides that all data connections are encrypted for your session out there. So the Cisco AnyConnect client, that's a desktop application out there. And then whereas a browser-based VPN is activated on your browser, so then that particular connection time you're opening up the browser with the VPN activated on it, that browser session, all the data is encrypted.
But if I don't use a VPN and I make sure that I use HTTPS, is that not also encrypted, or is that not as safe?
No, that is also safe, but that HTTPS one means that only that particular website you're going to is encrypted. So that particular vendor, their website means that they have encrypted out there. But if you go to another vendor out there that does not have HTTPS, then it means that their particular web portal is not scripted. Whereas a VPN, you're ensured that all data connections are encrypted from the outside. But it's just one of the combinations out there where you want that additional security out there, right? So does that make sense there? The HCP?
Yes, that was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. For the most part, most people just type in www and then whatever the website is. But just as a safe assurance, it's going to only take 1 second out of your time. Click on there and then let that URL expand out, and just make sure that there is a S on there. And 90% of the time, majority of websites that do have that S out there to ensure that that particular data is encrypted. But then also hackers are coming on top of that and utilizing that their websites they're setting, they are including that S also. So it's not a guarantee that that particular website is legitimate or not. It just means that that website data connection is secure, but it could be a malicious website too. So again, just due diligence out there, a passphrase, and multi-factor authentication if you can. That is the most secure way additional security that you want to have.
May I ask one more question, Aisha?
Please, Sean.
As far as the VPNs, sometimes when spending money, you get a little more. Do you know if those that come with a cost come with additional features?
For the most part, it just provides you a faster connection. I've used free ones and I've used paid for ones, like that of the Cisco one for UCLA and UCI. And it basically comes down to the constraints that one, like all things like Google, like that when Google gave you a free Hotmail, it was great, but it was only a limited data space. So with that, a free VPN, it provides the same service, but it may not give you as fast of a speed, and it only may give you a limited amount of bandwidth time that you can utilize before it no longer activates the VPN there. But for a free one, I mean a paid one, then it opens up the speed of it and also unlimited access. But there's a lot of free VPNs where it's unlimited data, but it's a little bit slower in that time. And you'll notice that slowness out there, but it's one of the things where I'd rather be secure.
That was fantastic. Thank you again. And thank you, Aisha, for letting me ask that question.
No, thank you, John.
So we have another question in the chat, and then we'll open it up for more questions. So this one was asking about Big Brother. And I think we all kind of feel like this, but sometimes on social media, the advertisements that you hear or see are something that you're talking about or thinking of, and all of a sudden, here I am thinking of like getting a Coca-Cola, and now all of a sudden I'm getting an advertisement for Coca-Cola or whatever it is. Are we imagining this?
No, you're not. Literally on Facebooks, and they've been caught. And also Google is they rely on your browsing activities, and they gather that activities to be able to have a more focused advertisements out there. So we're talking about that of cookies now. We're branching on that of when you're going to a website. Now, that being in the state of California, we have a law where I think all websites are required to ask your permission for cookies that you're setting out there, right? So for most part, people just click yes to all. I would say spend the extra time and go into and say no to all cookies except for the all essential ones that they require. Because if you notice there, if you really go into that cookies configurations, one would be that performance, one would be for that analytics, another one would be for that marketing ones, right? So it really depends on the website out there. But they do, websites do use cookies. They are allowing to track your activities and track your traffic ones. So that's how they know your activities, where you're going about. As for that of Google's, Facebook's, yes, they do track your activities out there, so they know where you're going, and so that provides them with a better description of your digital presence and your digital activities, so that they now can go to their vendors as, I have this demographics of age 45 to 50, and this particular demographics are more or female, this particular demographics are for male, or this demographic is that of for this focus area, like that of golfing. Another one is for that of football, and so forth. So they have all these very spliced out specific demographics that then they can turn and go to a particular vendor out there that is, let's say, football, right? Then they can charge that I have these amounts that are for this age group for this particular interest, and we're charging this much. So that's how they go about now knowing that you went and did a search for cookie recipes, and then within 5 minutes, you're bombarded with that of Hasbro's, Betty Crocker cookies recipes out there. I know that if I do a search on my browsers on that of Instagram or Facebook, and I linger on or I click on that of a golf advertisement, and I know that within that of that same session, and they're out there after the words, I'm gonna get bombarded with that of golfing advertisements. So they do track you in that Big Brother-ish way.
So just to kind of piggyback off that question, do you suggest ever using the incognito search browser? If everyone knows what I'm talking about, there's an option when you open a window, you can have a incognito tab or a private search window. Does that really do anything?
Yes, it does actually. And here's the trick that I do to help me with that travel wise is I open up an incognito website. Let's say it's Google Chrome, right? I open up an incognito, then I go to google.com/flights and I do my search on that travel airlines. So in that session, I can go about and all the cookies are not being tracked, right? And I do search, I gather my information, right? But if I do it on a regular browser ones, that particular cookies are being saved or my browsing activities are being saved. So that now next time I go back into it, they have a log that, oh, Tom had already done a search for this particular information, then they can go ahead and start charging a lot more higher. So yes, definitely, if you want to have a more incognito where you're are not being tracked, then incognito mode is a great way to sort of hide your presence, but it's not a guarantee all functionality to ensure it. Angie Fong, I see here on the chat that she asked, does clearing our cookies reset their advertisements? For most part, yes, it does. It clears up for it, but it doesn't. But there are some cookies out there, and some vendors that are very stubborn, so it may not get it. But for the most part, go ahead and clear your cookies, and then ensure that it's clean and fresh. I try to clean all my cookies out before I do a search for flight deals. Traveling wise. So, but for the most part, in my research, I'll open a incognito mode to hide all the websites I'm going to, and then for them not to log my searches.
Sounds good. So let's see. Any other questions? Feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself. We'll probably take a couple more questions before we end today's program. Any other questions you have about cybersecurity or in general for today's program? Okay, well, Tom, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I think we will follow up with another program about cloud security. People asked a question about that in the chat room. And I will put this on our YouTube channel. And once I get the slides from Tom, I'll send that out. And I will follow up about the VPN question for eMeritai and retirees. So just check your email for that. Hopefully I can get a response today. If not, I'll definitely send it out tomorrow. If you haven't already subscribed to our e-newsletter, that's how you can find out about more of these programs. And I'll put that into the chat one more time too. So that way, when we have future programs, you can register for those. For those who were here last week, we did have the Oscar Academy Museum program, and it was so well received, but because it was behind the scenes exclusive material, we couldn't record it. But we are going to have a second program with them probably in August or September, right before the museum opens. So it'll be a really exciting program to have again for the summer. So enjoy your Monday, everyone. Stay out of the heat. If it's getting too hot wherever you are, drink lots of water. Okay. Thank you again, Tom. Take care.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone. Happy Monday, everyone.